Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about the #1 interior design mistake that I see over and over again. I've talked a lot about interior design mistakes in the past. I have entire videos and playlists on interior design mistakes. Everything from like rugs that are too small for the living room to dining benches or like farmhouse signs, which are not really mistakes, but they're just sort of my preference. But let's be honest, they're kind of mistakes. There's no shortage of times that I've talked about interior design mistakes, but I've never really talked about this one in one dedicated video. So I'm going to be explaining to you what that interior design mistake is in this video, and then I'm going to be going room by room to the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, and the bathroom, and we're talking about specific areas of those rooms where I see this mistake being done the most often. I'm going to give you some ideas on how you can use different items or some different strategies in order to not make this mistake over and over in every single room, because it's really preventing your home from looking, I think, as chic and beautiful as you want it to be. So let's talk about it. So the interior design mistake that I see over and over again is going to be not storing things that ought to be stored. So yes, we're talking a little bit about open shelving in this video, but which I have talked about before, but bear with me. We are talking all about items that are displayed in people's homes that should be stored. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So you might be thinking here that I'm advocating for minimalism, and that's not really true. A minimalist usually really does understand this quite well because it's kind of built into those minimalist design styles. Even maximalists that really create beautiful and effective spaces understand that the pieces that are on display in the home is very curated, right? That's why these maximalist spaces work so well, because the space still looks beautiful and cohesive because everything is really intentional, and everything that you see, everything that is on display fits in the color palette, fits in the design style, and it works with everything else in that space. And that's what's really important, is they don't just shove a bunch of crap in a room and call it maximalism. I've been very clear on that when I discuss maximalism. It's effective because it's cohesive and because it's intentional. And that's really important. So whether you're a minimalist or you're a maximalist or somewhere in between, it's really important to take a look at what you're displaying in your home and store the items that ought not to be displayed. Okay, so let's start with the living room. Where are some areas of the living room where I see this as a problem? Shelving units, open media consoles, and coffee tables, and sort of end tables, depending on if they have sort of some shelving kind of in there. So those bookshelves, right? So whether you have a Billy bookcase or a Kallax unit, or you've got some other sort of a ladder or a bookcase, we're gonna put it all kind of in this category. So sometimes there is open shelving as part of these units, and sometimes there are some closed sort of drawer systems in these units as well. And I think what's important is that if you have an open shelf, so if you have a bookshelf, if you have a ladder unit, whatever you have, it's really important to curate what you want to display on those shelves and store everything else. I really don't think it's a good idea to store everything that you need in a living room and just shove it on a bookshelf. It will always look cluttered, it will always look overwhelming, and it prevents your space from looking really beautiful and chic. So if you have open shelving in some of those bookshelves, style it. Look at what works with your palette, look at what works with the rest of your design style, and really start, all the rules of design still apply, and style the shelves with the pieces that you actually want to display. Don't just shove the remotes and shove all the books and the old whatever TV, I was gonna say TV guides, like who has TV guides anymore? But you know what I mean. All the stuff that you may need in your home, don't just throw that on a shelving unit and hope that it works. Store that stuff. Find places to store it, right? I mean, here you can see I've linked here to this ottoman from Amazon, really chic. It's like 60 bucks or whatever, like perfect. Great, this is an awesome place to store those items that right now might be sitting and floating on some Kallax unit that is just always gonna make your space feel cluttered and overwhelming. Shove that in that ottoman because you don't need to display those items. Find places to store them. And the same applies for things like media consoles and coffee tables. So often with media consoles, people have those open shelving units where they've got all the wires, all the video game consoles, all the remotes, the DVD player. Do people have DVD? How old am I? Like what generation? I don't even know. Anyway, whatever you have down there, the sound bar, the whatever, people have all that stuff on display, and oftentimes they're not that attractive. So if you've got like 40 PlayStation 4 games or something down there, that is storage. That is not an item that needs to necessarily be displayed. You're usually better off taking a look at those items, storing them underneath so that people can't see them. It'll go a long way to make your space look really simple, really clean, really uncluttered and beautiful. Hide that stuff. And even things like open shelving. This is another culprit that I see all the time, even in living rooms, although we'll get there in the kitchen in a second, right? Like I've got these shelving units that I have from CB2. I've had these for a while, had them for a couple of years now, and they're great because you can put things in there that don't need to be displayed. Usually those floating shelves, which, you know, we all love a lax shelf, but those are meant for styling. They are not meant to just store a bunch of crap that you need, but you don't know what to do with it, so you just shove it on a shelf. Hiding stuff in this wall unit is going to make your space look so much more beautiful than cluttering it on some wall shelf. Okay, next up is the kitchen, another very important room in the home. So let's talk about open shelving, because we were just talking about that in the living room. Open shelving is a trend for sure. It is something that has been around for a couple of years. It's something still very trendy on the kitchen. And I am not strictly against open shelving in the kitchen. It is there for small areas. I don't believe that you need entire walls of open shelving because that feels wasteful in terms of giving up some of those amazing storage capabilities. Because guess what? You know what are really good for storing rather than open shelving? Cabinetry, kitchen cabinets. I know it's been around for so long. No one really talks about kitchen cabinets because they love talking about beautifully styled open shelving. But the reality is that a little bit of open shelving is okay because you can display some beautiful pieces. You know, I found this one at Amazon Homemade, this beautiful handmade bowl that I have right here. Like, this is gorgeous. If you bought one of these and you want to display it and you want to show it off, great. Open shelving is wonderful for that. But you know what's really good at hiding? You know, those like cheap pink, like neon pink plastic kids cups that you might have sitting around, or like some plastic, like, I don't know, Mickey Mouse mug that you unfortunately bought at Disney World one time or whatever. Like, I don't know. If, you know, maybe that like was a good idea at the time. Maybe it's good to store that now in a kitchen cabinet, right? Like, take all those pieces, take all that basic IKEA 365 like dishware that we all know that you have, and throw that in some kitchen cabinets. They don't all need to be displayed. Hiding some of those really basic kitchen essentials goes a long way to making your space feel uncluttered. And by the way, we need to talk about those kitchen countertops, right? Putting stuff on your kitchen countertops that you use very regularly, that also you really like to look at, is fine. But I would say so often, nothing is going to torpedo your beautiful, gorgeous kitchen quite like putting a bunch of clutter and a bunch of appliances and a bunch of like whatever sitting on top of your kitchen countertops. Because there is a point that when you've got the toaster and the toaster oven and you've got the Vitamix and then you've got, what else do people have? The air fryer, and you put all that stuff on the kitchen countertops, it's not gonna make your kitchen look all that great. Take some of those pieces that you use every day, maybe like a coffee machine or something like that, put that on your kitchen countertops, but all of those more specialty appliances, hide them, put them inside storage. It's the one thing that is going to make your kitchen look so much better, and it's free. You can find storage. You just have to be a little bit more organized and take the time to store some of those really basic items that just don't need to go out on the kitchen countertops every day. And for those items that you do use, maybe like places to store your kitchen utensils, maybe you want that on the kitchen countertops because you cook all the time, that's fine. Maybe your soap that you use for dishes, like your dish soap, whatever, your hand soap, all that sort of stuff, fine. If you do want those displayed on your kitchen countertops, it's those items that I think you can really take the time to make sure they work with the rest of your space is beautiful and cohesive, you've got a color palette, maybe you've got specific materials that you're using, maybe specific metals that you want to use throughout the space, that's fine. Those little items that you use every day, the soap pump and where you put your utensils and all those things that you want to display on your kitchen countertops, those are the items that you want to take into account the aesthetics to make sure that it works with the rest of your space. But all those other items like the air fryer, I'm sorry, store it. Because the reality is, like, yeah, sure, we all love an Instant Pot, but does it need to go on the kitchen countertop all the time? Are you Instant Potting that much? Okay, let's move on to the bathroom. Okay, so this is all about the vanity, okay? Especially in the primary. The primary bathroom, I think it's really important to look at that vanity area because you're gonna have makeup and skincare and like soaps and like whatever you're gonna use for your personal hygiene products that you're using every day. That area can get super cluttered really, really quickly. And there's really a couple of things that I would say. First of all, things like the pedestal sinks that are super popular that you see are very trendy right now, the don't have any built-in storage inside the vanity, those can work really great for a powder room. They're not meant for a primary bathroom. I would say primary bathroom, your best bet is to choose something that has lots of storage so you can put all that stuff away when you're not using it. My other personal favorite that I love that I think are kind of, I don't know if they're out of fashion, but I don't see people talking about them as much. There's not that many around in stores, is medicine cabinets. I love medicine cabinets. Medicine cabinets are just like free storage to me because you hide it behind a mirror, which you're gonna have anyway, and it's a really great way to store all of those different personal hygiene products that you're gonna use all the time, you're gonna be using every day, but you can store them in the medicine cabinet. Also, by the way, hot tip, if you're doing a renovation, consider recessing the medicine cabinet inside the wall, and that way the mirror actually sits completely flush with the bathroom wall, which means you would never ever know that there's actually storage in there because it's hidden inside the wall. Very, very cool, easy free storage, love those. But the biggest thing that's gonna be holding you back from having a beautiful bathroom, yes, I did a bathroom mistake video where I talked about all the different mistakes people made. The biggest one though is just too much clutter. Putting too much stuff that is not stored and displaying things like, I don't know, your razors and your shaving foam or whatever that ought not to be displayed. Put that stuff away, store it. Those are my two favorite places though, inside the vanity and inside the medicine cabinet. Just store that stuff. You don't need to display it. And finally, we have the bedroom, specifically looking at the primary bedroom here. Two things that I think make a space look really cluttered. So first of all, you've got any sort of open shelving that you have that are or hooks that maybe you might have in your bedroom, and I'm guilty of this too. But honestly, if you've got hooks in your bedroom, if you've got open shelving, like whatever, yesterday's jeans that you wore that you just kind of threw over top of something, that is not gonna make your space look beautiful. You can invest in all the most gorgeous finishings that you can think of in a bedroom. You can do all sorts of wonderful details. But the reality is that if you're displaying clothing or you're just throwing dirty clothes on things, it's never gonna look good. You need to find storage and places to store some of those basic items. I would say storage units that have doors on them are way better than storage units that are open. So if you have a Kallax unit or something in there, if you went with a Pax wardrobe unit but you didn't put doors on it, considering putting doors on those units, because nothing is gonna make a place look more cluttered than actually displaying your clothing, whether it's an open shelving unit or whether it's on those hooks or whatever. Nothing is gonna torpedo your style quite like that. And also pay attention to those night tables. Those night tables, especially the ones that have open shelving where people store books and like whatever they want to store in there, those should probably have doors on them. I think they're better off with doors, especially if you are going to actually use it for a certain amount of storage, or you could just use a plain shelf if you don't need the storage, but just be really mindful of what you're putting there. Maybe you're gonna put a space for your glasses or you're gonna put a phone charger, but keep that sort of stuff to a minimum because displaying those items is gonna make your space feel really cluttered and really heavy. My other favorite storage area, absolutely, completely, for sure, in a bedroom is going to be under the bed. I know some people are against it, but I'm a really big fan of like those IKEA bins, or you can find a bunch on Amazon that you can throw under the bed. I think it's one of the most underutilized spaces to store things, especially in the bedroom. So if you maybe have your seasonal clothing that no longer makes sense, like I'm wearing a sweater here in the summer, but that's Vancouver, so here we are, then I would consider storing some of those items under the bed that you don't necessarily need for another 6 months. So thanks everyone, I hope you really enjoyed that video. Just honestly, store those items that ought not to be seen. It sounds really simple, but there's so many different problem areas in the home, but those little storage areas go a long way to making your space feel less cluttered, and it's gonna make your place always look more beautiful. I don't care what your design style is, what your color palette, what you love, you know, how expensive your materials are or whatever. It honestly doesn't really matter if your space is really cluttered and overwhelming. So store some of those items, please, 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 and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks.